I was sitting in the back of a town car stuck in Los Angeles traffic on my way to interview for a housekeeper position when the driver asked me if I wanted to stop for coffee. And I said yes, thinking he was just being nice. But when we pulled up to the mansion 3 hours later, every single guard at the entrance bowed deeply to him, and I realized the man I had been casually chatting with for the entire drive was not the chauffeur. He was the owner of the estate and my potential employer, and I had just spent 3 hours complaining to him about rich people. My name is Elena Vesquez. I'm 28 years old, and that drive changed my entire life in ways I never could have predicted. But before I tell you what happened at that mansion, I need to explain how I ended up in that car in the first place and why I was so desperate for a job that I was willing to work as a housekeeper for some billionaire I had never met. I grew up in a small agricultural town in Central California called Fresno, where my parents worked in the fields picking grapes and almonds and whatever else was in season. My father, Miguel, came to the United States from Mexico when he was 16, crossing the border illegally because his family was starving and there was no work back home. My mother, Carmen, was born in California, but her parents were also undocumented immigrants who had crossed decades earlier. We lived in a small house on the edge of town that my parents rented from a farmer who employed them. The house had 3 bedrooms for our family of 6. Me and my 3 younger brothers, Marco, Luis, and little Diego, who we called Diagito. The house was old and falling apart. The roof leaked when it rained. The heater barely worked in winter. There were cracks in the walls that let in bugs and mice. But it was home, and my parents worked incredibly hard to keep us fed and clothed. My father would leave for work at 4 in the morning and come home at 7 at night. My mother would work from 6 to 6, then come home and make dinner and take care of us kids. They never complained. They never said they were tired, even though I could see the exhaustion in their faces. They just worked and worked and worked, because that's what you do when you have children to feed. I was the oldest and the only girl, so I had responsibilities the boys didn't. I helped my mother with cooking and cleaning. I watched my brothers after school while my parents worked. I translated documents and phone calls because my parents' English wasn't great. I grew up fast because I had to. School was my escape. I loved learning. I got straight A's in every class. My teachers told me I was smart, that I could go to college, that I could have a different life than my parents. And I wanted that. I wanted to go to college and get a good job and help my family. I wanted to prove that their sacrifices meant something. When I was 17, I got accepted to UC Berkeley with a partial scholarship. My parents cried when I told them. They were so proud. But the scholarship only covered tuition, not room and board or books or living expenses. I would need at least $15,000 a year for everything else. My parents didn't have $15,000. They barely had $1,500 in savings. So I worked. I got a job at a grocery store working 25 hours a week while going to school full-time. I took out student loans. I ate ramen and rice and whatever was cheapest. I shared a tiny apartment with 3 other girls. It was hard, but I was making it work. Then, during my junior year, everything fell apart. My father got hurt at work. He was on a ladder picking from a high branch when the ladder broke and he fell 20 feet. He shattered his leg in 3 places and fractured his spine. The farmer he worked for had been paying him under the table, so there was no workers' compensation, no insurance, nothing. My father had surgery that cost $40,000, money we didn't have. The hospital put it on a payment plan, but it was still $800 a month. My mother couldn't make that working alone. My brothers were too young to work. So I dropped out of college. I left Berkeley with 2 semesters left until graduation, and I moved back home to help. I got a job at a warehouse, making $12 an hour. It wasn't enough. I got a second job waitressing at night. Between both jobs, I was working 70 hours a week and bringing home about $2,400 a month. $800 went to my father's medical bills. The rent was $600. That left $1,000 for food and utilities and everything else for 6 people. We were barely surviving. My father's leg healed badly. He walked with a limp and couldn't do the physical labor he used to do. He found work as a janitor at a school, but it paid less than half what he made in the fields. We fell behind on rent. We fell behind on the medical bills. Debt collectors started calling. I felt like I was drowning. This went on for 3 years. 3 years of working 2 jobs and never having enough money. 3 years of watching my parents age rapidly from stress. 3 years of seeing my brothers wear clothes with holes because we couldn't afford new ones. 3 years of feeling like I had failed because I couldn't save my family. Then my mother got sick. She started losing weight rapidly. She was tired all the time. She had pain in her stomach that wouldn't go away. We finally scraped together enough money to take her to a doctor who did tests and gave us news that destroyed us. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctor said with treatment, she might have a year. Without treatment, maybe 3 months. The treatment would cost over $200,000. We didn't have $200,000. We didn't have $20,000. We barely had $2,000. My mother refused treatment. She said she wouldn't let us go into debt that we could never repay. She said she had lived a good life, and she was ready. But I wasn't ready. I started looking for better jobs that paid more, jobs that would give us the money for her treatment. That's when I saw the ad online. Housekeeper position for private estate in Los Angeles. Salary $75,000 per year plus room and board. No experience necessary, just references and a willingness to work hard. $75,000 a year. That was more than I made working 2 jobs. That was enough to pay for my mother's treatment and still help my family. I applied immediately, even though I had never worked as a housekeeper and had no idea what a private estate job would actually involve. To my surprise, they called me 2 days later. A woman named Mrs. Chen asked me questions about my background, my availability, my willingness to relocate to Los Angeles. I told her I would do anything for this job. I needed it desperately. She said the estate owner wanted to meet me in person. Could I come to Los Angeles for an interview? I said yes. She said a car would pick me up at my house at 7 a.m. on Thursday and drive me to the estate. The interview would take most of the day. I should dress professionally and bring any questions I might have. Thursday came, and I woke up at 5 a.m. to get ready. I put on the only professional outfit I owned, a black skirt and white blouse that I had bought for job interviews at thrift stores. I did my makeup carefully and pulled my hair back in a neat bun. I looked at myself in the mirror and practiced smiling. You can do this, I told myself. You need this job. Just don't mess it up. At exactly 7 a.m., a black town car pulled up in front of our house. It was the nicest car I had ever seen. Sleek and shiny and expensive looking. A man got out of the driver's seat. He was probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair and dark eyes, wearing a simple black suit and a cap. "Good morning," he said. "Are you Miss Vasquez?" "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." He opened the back door for me. "Please make yourself comfortable," he said. "It's about a 3-hour drive to Los Angeles, depending on traffic." I climbed into the back seat. The interior was incredible. Leather seats, tinted windows. It smelled new and expensive. The driver got in and we started driving. I sat in the back feeling nervous and out of place. I had never been in a car this nice. We drove in silence for about 20 minutes. Then the driver said, "Would you like some music?" "Sure," I said. He turned on the radio to a classical station. We drove for another 10 minutes. Then he said, "I'm sorry, but would you mind if we took a quick detour? There's a coffee shop I like, and I haven't had breakfast yet." "Oh," I said, "Sure, that's fine." We pulled off the freeway and into a small town. He parked in front of a local coffee shop. "Would you like anything?" he asked. "I shouldn't," I said. "I don't want to be late for my interview." "We have plenty of time," he said, "and you should eat something. The interview will be long." "Okay," I said, "just a coffee then." We went into the coffee shop together. It felt strange walking in with him. He was the driver. Shouldn't I wait in the car? But he held the door open for me, and I went in. The place was small and cozy, local artwork on the walls, the smell of fresh coffee and baking bread. He ordered 2 coffees and 2 breakfast sandwiches. I tried to pay for mine, but he waved me off. My treat, he said. We sat at a small table by the window. This is nice, he said. Much better than chain coffee. I agreed. The coffee was good. The sandwich was better. I realized I had skipped dinner the night before because I was too nervous to eat. We started talking. He asked me about myself, where I was from, what brought me to interview for this position. I told him about my family, about my father's accident, about my mother's cancer, about how desperately I needed this job. He listened without interrupting. He seemed genuinely interested. Then I started asking him questions. How long have you worked as a driver? I asked. A while, he said. Do you like it? I asked. It has its moments, he said, smiling. What's the owner like? I asked. The person I'm going to interview with. He considered this. He's complicated, he said. Very private, very particular about things, but fair. If you work hard and do your job well, he'll treat you well. Is he nice? I asked. Nice is not the word I would use, he said, but he's not cruel. He just has high standards. That made me nervous. I was interviewing to be a housekeeper for someone with very high standards, and I had never been a housekeeper before. What if I mess up? I said, more to myself than to him. You won't, he said. How do you know? Because you're here, he said. You're fighting for your family. People who fight that hard don't mess up. We finished our coffee and got back in the car. As we drove, he asked me more questions. What did I study in college? What did I want to do before I had to drop out? What were my dreams? I told him I had wanted to be a teacher, that I loved working with kids, that I had been majoring in education before everything fell apart. That sounds perfect for you, he said. Maybe someday, I said. After my mom gets better, after my family is stable, maybe I can go back and finish. Then he asked me something unexpected. What do you think of wealthy people? What do you mean? I asked. Just in general, he said. What's your opinion of people who have a lot of money? I thought about it. I should probably have been more careful with my answer since I was on my way to interview with a billionaire, but something about this driver made me feel comfortable, made me feel like I could be honest. Honestly, I said, I don't think about them much. They live in a completely different world than I do, but when I do think about them, I guess I get angry. Why angry? He asked. Because it's not fair, I said. I work 2 jobs, 70 hours a week, and I can barely pay rent. My parents worked their entire lives, and they have nothing. But some people are born rich, and they never have to work a day in their lives, and they have everything. Houses and cars and security. They can afford the best healthcare while my mother dies because we can't afford treatment. It's just not fair. He nodded slowly. You're right, he said. It's not fair. I was surprised. I expected him to defend rich people or tell me life wasn't about fair. But he didn't. We drove in silence for a bit. Then I said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said all that. You're probably going to tell your boss and I won't get the job. I won't tell anyone anything, he said. And you should get the job. You'd be good at it. We talked for the rest of the drive. About everything. About his life, though he was vague about details. About my brothers and their dreams. About my mother and her strength. About what I would do with the salary if I got the job. He was easy to talk to. Easier than almost anyone I had ever met. I forgot I was talking to a driver. I forgot to be nervous. By the time we pulled off the freeway into an area with massive estates, I had actually enjoyed the drive. We turned onto a private road. There was a gate with a guardhouse. The driver rolled down his window and nodded to the guard, who immediately opened the gate. We drove up a long driveway, lined with trees. And then I saw it. The mansion. It was enormous. 3 stories tall, made of white stone, with huge windows and columns, and architecture that looked like something from a European palace. There were fountains and gardens, and what looked like a guest house that was bigger than any house I had ever lived in. "Oh my God," I said. "This is where I would work?" "If you get the job," the driver said. We pulled up to the front entrance, where there were several people waiting. Security guards in black suits, a woman in professional attire who must have been Mrs. Chen, other staff members. The driver got out and came around to open my door. I stepped out and immediately felt underdressed. Everyone looked so professional, so put together. The driver gestured for me to follow him toward the entrance. As we approached, the guards did something that confused me. They all bowed. Not a little nod, but a deep, formal bow, the kind you see in movies about royalty. I looked around, thinking maybe someone important was behind us, but there was no one. The driver walked past them and they stayed bowed. Mrs. Chen bowed too. So did the other staff members. "What's happening?" I whispered to the driver. He stopped walking and turned to me. "Miss Vasquez," he said, "I think we need to clarify something. I'm not the driver." "What?" I said. "My name is Sebastian Stone," he said. "I own this estate, and if you're still interested, I'd like to offer you the job." I stared at him. The driver. The man I had spent 3 hours talking to, the man I had complained to about rich people. He owned this place? I'd just spent 3 hours? He was the billionaire I was supposed to interview with? "Yes," he said. I felt my face go hot with embarrassment. "Oh my God," I said. "I'm so sorry. I said all those things about wealthy people, and you—" "It's fine," he said. "You were honest. I appreciate honesty. But I thought you were the driver," I said. "I know," he said, smiling slightly. "I often drive myself when I'm meeting potential employees. It gives me a chance to see who they really are when they're not trying to impress me." "So this was a test?" I said. "Not a test," he said. "Just an opportunity to have a real conversation." "You could have told me," I said. "I could have," he agreed. "But would you have been as honest?" "Probably not," I admitted. I stood there not knowing what to do. Was I supposed to bow like everyone else? Was I supposed to apologize? Was the job offer even real after everything I said? "Mr. Stone," I said, "I'm so sorry. For everything I said in the car. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," he interrupted. "And that's fine. You have every right to feel that way. Many people in your situation would feel the same." "But I started. "Miss Vasquez," he said, "I'm offering you the job. $75,000 per year, plus room and board, full health insurance for you and your family, 2 weeks paid vacation, and we'll cover the cost of your mother's cancer treatment." I felt like the ground had disappeared under me. "What?" I said. "Your mother's treatment," he repeated. "We'll cover it. All of it." "Why would you do that?" I asked. "Because you need help," he said, "and I can help. That's the point of having money, to use it to make a difference." I felt tears starting. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like me. "There has to be a catch," I said. "What's the catch?" "No catch," he said. "You work hard. You take care of the estate. You're honest with me. That's all I ask." "When would I start?" I asked. "Whenever you're ready," he said. "Tomorrow, if you want. Mrs. Chen will show you to your quarters and explain everything." I accepted the job. Obviously. What else was I going to do? Mrs. Chen gave me a tour of the estate. It was even more massive than it looked from outside. 35 rooms, including 12 bedrooms, each with private bathrooms, a library, a gym, an indoor pool, a home theater. The quarters where I would live were nicer than any apartment I had ever seen. A full bedroom, with a sitting area and private bathroom, and a small kitchen. Mrs. Chen explained my duties: general cleaning and maintenance of the main house, managing the household staff, which consisted of a cook, a gardener, and 2 other housekeepers, organizing Mr. Stone's personal spaces, though he was very private about his areas and didn't like people in them unless necessary. It seemed manageable. She also explained the rules. Mr. Stone valued privacy above everything. No gossiping about him or his business to outsiders, no photos of the estate or him, discretion at all times. I agreed to everything. The next day, I moved in. I brought 2 suitcases with all my belongings and said goodbye to my family. My mother cried. She didn't want me to leave, but she understood I was doing this for her. Sebastian had already arranged for her treatment to start. A team of specialists, the best hospital in California, everything paid for. My first week was overwhelming. Learning the layout of the house, learning the routines, meeting the other staff. But everyone was kind and patient. Sebastian himself was rarely around. He worked long hours and traveled frequently. When he was home, he stayed in his office or his private wing. I barely saw him, but when I did see him, he was always polite. Always asked how I was settling in. Always treated me with respect. After a month, I started to relax. I was good at my job. I kept everything organized and clean. I managed the other staff well. I sent money home to my family every week. My mother's treatment was going well. The doctors were optimistic. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe things were going to be okay. One evening, about 2 months after I started, I was working late finishing some cleaning in the library. It was past 9 p.m. and I thought everyone had gone to bed. I heard someone come in and turned to see Sebastian. He was wearing casual clothes, jeans, and a t-shirt, and looked tired. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't know anyone was still working." "Just finishing up," I said. "I can come back later." "No, please stay," he said. "I'm just looking for a book." He walked along the shelves, scanning titles. I continued cleaning quietly. Then he said, "Elena, can I ask you something?" "Of course," I said. "Are you happy here?" he asked. "Very much," I said. "This job has changed my life. Your generosity with my mother's treatment, I can never thank you enough." "I'm glad I could help," he said. "But that's not what I meant. Are you happy here? As in, do you like the work? Do you feel comfortable?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said honestly. "Everyone is kind, the work is manageable, I have my own space and privacy. It's more than I could have hoped for." "Good," he said, "because I wanted to talk to you about something." "Okay," I said. "I'd like to offer you a different position," he said. "What kind of position?" I asked. "I need someone I can trust," he said. "Someone to manage my personal affairs, coordinate my schedule, handle correspondence, basically be my right hand. It's a lot of responsibility, but I think you could do it." "That sounds like a personal assistant," I said. "Essentially, yes," he said. "The pay would be significantly higher, $150,000 per year, plus all the same benefits." I stared at him. "That's double what I make now?" "Yes." "But why me?" I asked. "I have no experience with that kind of work." "You're intelligent and organized and trustworthy," he said. "You learn quickly, and most importantly, you see me as a person, not just as a wealthy employer. That matters to me." "I don't know what to say," I said. "Say yes," he said. "I need someone I can rely on, someone who will be honest with me even when it's uncomfortable. You proved in the car that first day that you're willing to be honest." "I'll do it," I said. "Thank you." That was how I became Sebastian Stone's personal assistant. The work was challenging, but I loved it. I managed his schedule, which was incredibly complex with meetings and travel and social obligations. I handled his correspondence, answering emails and letters from business associates and charities, and people asking for money. I organized his life so he could focus on running his various businesses. Sebastian owned a tech company that developed software for hospitals. He also invested in real estate and renewable energy. He was on the board of several charities. He was busy all the time, but he was also kind. He never yelled or talked down to anyone. He treated all his staff with respect. He was generous with time off and understanding when people had personal issues. Over the next 6 months, we developed a working relationship that felt more like a partnership. He trusted my judgment. He asked my opinion on things. He listened when I suggested changes to his schedule or approach. We spent a lot of time together, long drives to meetings, working dinners at the estate, late nights when he had deadlines. We talked about everything: his childhood, growing up poor in Seattle with a single mother who worked 3 jobs, how he had started his first company in college with money he borrowed from friends, how he had worked himself nearly to death building his business, how success had brought money but also isolation because he never knew who to trust. I told him more about my family, about my father's struggle to find work after his injury, about my brothers and their dreams, about my mother's treatment and how well she was doing. The cancer was shrinking. The doctors were talking about remission. It was a miracle. One evening, about 8 months after I started working for Sebastian, we were in his office going over his schedule for the next week. It was late, almost midnight. We had been working for hours. "I'm exhausted," he said, rubbing his eyes. "Me too," I admitted. "Why do we do this?" he asked. "Work ourselves to death." "Because it matters," I said. "Your work helps people. The software your company makes saves lives. That's worth being tired." He smiled. "That's why I keep you around," he said. "You remind me why I do this." We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, "Elena, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I've been thinking about this for months, trying to figure out if it's appropriate to say, trying to figure out if I'm imagining things." "What is it?" I asked. "I care about you," he said. "Not as my assistant, as a person, as someone I want to spend time with, as someone I think about when they're not around." I felt my heart start racing. "I care about you too," I said quietly. "I have for a while. I just didn't think it was appropriate to say anything." "Why not?" he asked. "Because you're my employer," I said. "Because there's a power imbalance. Because I didn't want you to think I was only interested because of your money." "I understand that," he said. "But what if I'm willing to risk the complications? What if you are too?" I thought about it, about how much I had come to care for him over the past months, about how easy he was to talk to, about how he made me feel seen and valued. "I am," I said, "willing to risk it." He stood and walked around the desk to where I was sitting. He held out his hand and I took it. He pulled me up to face him. "I've wanted to do this for months," he said. "Then do it," I said. He kissed me, and everything changed. We kept our relationship quiet at first. We didn't want the staff to gossip or for people to think I had gotten my position because of our relationship. But gradually, over weeks, people figured it out. The way he looked at me, the way I looked at him, the way we were always together. Mrs. Chen was the first to know. She pulled me aside one day and said, "I see what's happening between you two. I just want to make sure you're happy." "I am," I said. "Very happy." "Good," she said. "He deserves someone who sees him for who he is, not what he has. You're good for him." The other staff were supportive too. They had all seen how hard I worked. They knew I had earned my position. They were happy for both of us. My family was shocked when I told them. My mother couldn't believe it. She worried that I was getting in over my head, that someone that wealthy and powerful couldn't really care about someone like me. But when she met Sebastian, she changed her mind. He was genuine and kind. He asked about her treatment and her life. He treated my family with respect. My father liked him immediately. They talked about work and family and life. Sebastian didn't act superior or entitled. He just acted like a normal person who cared about his girlfriend's family. 1 year after I started working for Sebastian, he asked me to take a trip with him. Just the two of us. A week in Italy. I had never been out of the country. I had never even been on an airplane. We stayed in a villa in Tuscany, surrounded by vineyards and olive groves. It was the most beautiful place I had ever seen. One evening, we were having dinner on the terrace, watching the sunset. "Elena," he said, "I need to tell you something." "Okay," I said. "When I met you that day in the car," he said, "I never expected this. I never expected to feel this way about anyone. But you changed everything. You made me remember what matters. You made me want to be better." "I love you," I said. "I know this is fast, but I do. I love you." "I love you too," he said. "That's why I want to ask you something." He pulled out a small box and opened it. Inside was a ring. A simple band with a single diamond. "Elena Vasquez," he said. "Will you marry me?" I felt tears streaming down my face. "Yes," I said. "Yes, yes, yes." We got married 6 months later. A small ceremony at the estate with just family and close friends. My mother was there, healthy and happy in remission. My father walked me down the aisle. My brothers stood with Sebastian's groomsmen. It was perfect. People ask me all the time if I ever think about that day in the car. That 3-hour drive where I complained to a billionaire about rich people, not knowing who he was. And I tell them, yes, I think about it constantly, because that day changed everything. If Sebastian had told me who he was from the beginning, I would have been too nervous to be myself. I would have tried to impress him. I would have said all the right things and hidden who I really was. But he gave me the gift of honesty. He let me be myself. And that honesty became the foundation of everything we built together. We've been married for 3 years now. I still help manage Sebastian's schedule and affairs, but I also started something new. A foundation that helps families dealing with medical debt. Families like mine, who are one emergency away from losing everything. We've helped hundreds of families, paid medical bills, provided support, given people hope. It's the most meaningful work I've ever done. My mother is still in remission. My father found better work through connections Sebastian helped him make. My brothers are all in college on scholarships that Sebastian helped arrange. My family is thriving in ways we never imagined possible. Sometimes I walk through our home and I still can't believe this is my life, that I live in a mansion, that I'm married to someone I love who also happens to be incredibly wealthy, that I get to help people the way we were helped. But what I'm most grateful for is not the money or the house or the security. It's the partnership. Sebastian and I are a team. We make decisions together. We support each other. We challenge each other to be better. He listens to me. He values my opinion. He treats me as an equal, even though I came from nothing and he came from everything. Last week we were driving to a meeting and I joked about how far we've come since that first drive. "Remember when I thought you were the chauffeur?" I said. "How could I forget?" he said, smiling. "You spent 3 hours telling me everything wrong with rich people." "I cringe every time I think about it," I said. "Don't," he said. "That conversation is why I knew you were special." "Why is that?" I asked. "Because you were real," he said. "You didn't pretend to be something you weren't. You didn't try to impress me. You just told me the truth about your life and your struggles. That's rare, and that's why I fell in love with you." "I love you too," I said, "even though you let me make a fool of myself in that car." "Especially because of that," he said. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if things had gone differently. If I hadn't needed that job. If Sebastian had introduced himself as the owner from the beginning. If I had been too proud to accept help. And I realized how many small moments led to this life. The ad I happened to see online, the day I was available for an interview, the coffee shop stop that gave us time to really talk, Sebastian's decision to drive himself that day. Any of those things could have been different, and I might still be working 2 jobs, barely surviving. Life is strange that way. The smallest decisions can change everything. A 3-hour car ride can lead to a completely different future. Honesty with a stranger can become the foundation of a marriage. Accepting help can mean not just survival, but thriving. People sometimes tell me I'm lucky, that I won the lottery by meeting Sebastian, and maybe that's true, but I also think luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. I worked hard my entire life. I stayed honest even when it was uncomfortable. I was willing to accept help when it was offered. Those choices mattered too. Sebastian says I saved him as much as he saved me, that before he met me, he was lost, that he had all the money in the world but no real connection, that I reminded him what matters: family, honesty, using wealth to help others, building something meaningful beyond just accumulating more. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that we saved each other in the ways that matter most. This morning, I woke up in our bedroom. Sebastian was already awake, working on his laptop. I made coffee and brought him a cup. "What are you working on?" I asked. "Just reviewing proposals for the foundation," he said. "We have 50 new applications this month." 50 families who need help, I said. "That's a lot." "It is," he said, "but we'll help as many as we can. That's what the money is for." I sat down next to him and we reviewed the applications together, reading stories of families struggling with medical debt, families just like mine used to be, families who needed someone to believe in them and give them a chance. We chose 10 families to help that day. 10 families whose lives would change because someone cared enough to help them. 10 families who would get the same chance my family got. After we finished, Sebastian looked at me. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Any of it?" "Never," I said. "Not even the embarrassment of that first car ride." "Especially not that," I said. "That's when I fell in love with you, even though you thought I was the chauffeur." "Especially because I thought you were the chauffeur," I said. "You were just a person, being kind. That's who I fell in love with. Not the billionaire, not the mansion owner, just you. That's all I've ever wanted," he said. "For someone to see me, not my money." "I see you," I said. "And I love what I see." He pulled me close. "I love you too," he said. We sat there together in our home, surrounded by everything his wealth had built, but held together by something money can't buy. Love, trust, partnership, honesty. The same honesty that started 3 years ago in the back of a town car when I thought I was talking to a driver and ended up finding everything I never knew I needed. Did you like my story, and which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.